This is your co-host Muteado Silencio, con voces de migrantes en resistencia, with formerly houseless poverty scholar Tiburcio Garcia and Tiny, aka Poverty Scholar.
Gentrification kills. Eviction kills. Evictions are elder and child abuse, but they never get to the roots. They just keep kicking us to the curb because evicted, swept, and kicked settler towns like these don't give an ish. And you listening to Poor People's Radio, that's PNN, not CNN, people. Broadcast live and direct from the small part of liberated, unpimped, unsold, unplayed Mama Earth that us houseless people like to call homefulness, a homeless people's solution to homelessness. And welcome to PNN Radio.
Evictions, evictions to gentrification on today's podcast. The War on the Poor report takes us to Dobangar, aka so-called Los Angeles, to support and report where houseless, already gentrified elders resisting more state-sponsored eviction, and to the Cincinnati with relatives fighting the violence of gentrification.
Gentrification has significantly impacted Black property owners in Cincinnati since 2001, particularly in historically Black neighborhoods like Over the Rhine, the West End, Avondale, Madisonville, and Walnut Hills. The change is driven by rising property values, redevelopment, and an influx of wealthier, often white residents has led to a decrease in Black property ownership, with longstanding Black homeowners and renters being disproportionately affected. According to the U.S. Census data, the percentage of Black or African American residents in Cincinnati decreased from 42.9% in 2000 to 40.3% in 2020. Many Black homeowners have been forced to sell their properties due to rising property taxes, increased cost of living, and financial pressures caused by the redevelopment of their neighborhoods. As property values soared, some homeowners were unable to keep up with the higher tax assessments, leading to foreclosures or sale. Developers and investors seeking to capitalize on gentrification trends often target Black property owners with offers to buy their properties, sometimes at prices that seem attractive in the short term but do not reflect the long term value or the community's historical significance. This has resulted in a decrease in Black property ownership as these properties are flipped or redeveloped into more expensive housing. In 2023, the Black home ownership rate in the Cincinnati metro area was approximately 34%, while the white home ownership rate stood at about 74%, resulting in a nearly 40% gap. This disparity is among the largest in the nation and has been widening over time. The loss of Black home ownership undermines the ability of Black families to build and pass down generational wealth. Home ownership has historically been a key value for wealth accumulation, and the displacement caused by gentrification disrupts this process. Black landlords who own rental properties have faced similar pressures, with some selling due to rising maintenance costs and property taxes. This has led to a decrease in Black owned rental properties, contributing to the displacement of Black renters. Gentrification has driven up rental prices in affected neighborhoods, making it difficult for Black renters to afford their homes. This has led to a wave of evictions and forced relocations, reducing the Black population in these areas and further diminishing the number of Black owned properties. As gentrification progresses, the Black population in neighborhoods like Over the Rhine and the West End has declined sharply. This demographic shift is closely tied to the decrease in Black property ownership, as displaced residents are often replaced by higher income, predominantly white newcomers. The decline in Black property ownership also leads to cultural displacement, where the historical and cultural identity of a neighborhood is eroded. In certain neighborhoods, the situation is more pronounced. For instance, in 2022, Avondale had a Black home ownership rate of about 17%, and Price Hill's rate was approximately 11%. Black owned businesses, community centers,
One time
and
on this
social
premium
networks that
pilot.
once thrived in these neighborhoods have struggled or disappeared, further altering the community's fabric. The focus on market rate or luxury housing in redevelopment projects has also led to a reduction in affordable housing options, making it harder for displaced Black residents to find new homes within the city limits. This has exacerbated the decline in Black property home ownership. In many cases, Black property owners have faced challenges in retaining their homes due to insufficient legal protections or support. Efforts to establish stronger tenant rights, property tax relief programs, and anti displacement policies have been slowed or inadequate in the face of rapid gentrification. Do you want to get involved? Do you feel an obligation to protect the Black community? Please reach out to the People's Platform for Equality and Justice at area code 513-913-2691. You also can reach us by email at peoplesplatform2020@gmail.com. Again, that's peoplesplatform2020@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.
Keep the flash page, the opening page on there.
Democracy depends.
Oh, sorry. Hey, relatives, you're listening again to You're listening to Poor People's Radio, PNN Kexu 96.1 FM. And those of you watching on the digital streets, we love you. We appreciate you. We can't do any of this without you. This is PNN, not CNN, people. We just had the blessing of watching this preview of a powerful video that the People's Platform has made in, what the settlers call Cincinnati, which we know is actually occupied Shawnee, Delaware, Ottawa and Seneca nations, and many more indigenous relatives who've been erased.
Oh,
Right? We know that these acts of gentrification are nothing new in a settler colonial land launched on top of land where people were already living, and by these, rich white people who wanted to basically create their private fiefdoms to amass more and more wealth and create this capitalist system. So we're blessed to have some of one of the warriors who were part of making this happen from the People's Platform in Cincinnati. Welcome, Taria. Welcome to Poor People's Radio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We appreciate the unity that has now stretched all the way from Cincinnati to California due to the efforts of this broadcast tonight. So we appreciate your camaraderie and support.
Oh, thank you. Back at you. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm assuming you do. And I'd like to hear more about your process. But, right here in the Bay Area, we have San Francisco, which was actually one of the largest West Coast populations of African descendant people, and has been whittled down to 3%, maybe now even 2%. Also, of course, no accident. We know we live in Americland. One of the highest populations of folks who were predated on by the police, right? And it's quickly becoming the same in so-called Oakland, Uchun territory, where we are. So we feel you hard, relatives. We understand. This stuff is really evil. I have different names for it, which I can't say on the FCC dial. But those of you who know Tiny know what we call it in terms of that gentrification. But I'd really like you to tell listeners and viewers a little bit more, Tree, about what's going on and why you started to get into this. What was the beginning of the People's Platform, where this is coming from?
Okay, well, the People's Platform started in Over the Rhine, which has now gone from 93% African American down to 4% African American over the past 15 years. So we started off, the gentrification started by the demolish of a prominent park that used to actually be sacred burial ground for enslaved people here in Cincinnati, called
Mm.
Park. And the homeless people used to, or houseless people used to, that was their spot. I mean, that's where they went to use the restroom. That's where they hung out all day. I mean, that was a safe place for them. Well, when they started to gentrify the community, that was one of the first places they started. So we were successful at making sure that the people were able to get access to porta potties, so that they could still, have some decency in a public environment and still be able to take care of their personal business. So that was our official first victory.
Mm.
Since then, we've stayed in the trenches. I myself, just to give you a brief testimony on uh, my personal experience with being made houseless. A lot of Black property owners here have been targeted by the City of Cincinnati's Buildings and Inspections Department. What they've been permitted to do is go from community to community and just target areas that the high-end developers wanted to develop. And
Um,
what they would do is come in with this, what we call a cookie cutter list of um, alleged building code violations. They never had to prove that these building code violations even existed. And what they were doing and are still doing is filing for people's arrest based on civil processes, which is what alleged housing code violations are, and turning it over to a criminal court where people have been incarcerated, people have had to have ankle monitors, people have been forced, I myself have been forced into a diversion program as if I had actually committed a crime. And the only crime I've committed was caring about the Mohawk area of Over the Rhine and establishing a development corporation there that was people led, not led by the beer and the breweries that seem to have had a blank slate when it comes to them coming into the urban environment. So in 2015, when my granddaughter was only 2 days old, they showed up and put all of our property on the street. I never got a notice for court. I never was summoned to court. I never got notice of possession. None of that. And when in 2015, telling people this, well, they say, well, you must have done something wrong. The only thing I did wrong was be Black. The only thing I
mm.
did wrong was head up a development corporation that was not going to acquiesce to high-end developers and basically glorify alcohol in order for us to develop our communities. What I did was, the only thing I did was have a community garden for 8 years that people could actually eat out of, and there was no fee for that. We had seeds that we went and collected every year. I mean, we had a good thing going.
Mm.
Corner of the neighborhood was McMicken and Ravine, and now my house is still empty. And we're in a fight right now with the city of Cincinnati and at least 45 other defendants. We have filed a federal lawsuit. It's under Childress versus the city of Cincinnati. We also have filed a pro se lawsuit, and that's under Sparks versus Cranley. Cranley is the former mayor of Cincinnati. So we are doing the best that we can to make sure that this practice of gentrifying and just taking over and basically it's belligerent occupancy that we're looking at, no matter if it's here in Cincinnati or where you are in the Bay Area. I think we have to do a lot of studying and do a lot of networking and sharing amongst each other when we find out certain laws and certain cases that have been used to be successful at getting people their property back. We
Mm,
are in a nation of parasitic opportunists who have capitalized on our suffering.
Mm,
Going back to, manifest destiny. And that's what we're seeing in Project 2020. We call it Cincinnati. I'm sorry, Project 2025. We call it Cincinnati 2025. It's been going on since 2001, since the collaborative agreement was signed. The policing power has been basically given to buildings and inspections to where, like I said, at any time they could decide they want a particular property, go file bogus building code violations on it, and have people forced into court whether they want to be there or not as people.
wow. Wow. Monte, what you want to say something? My
Well,
co-host.
just first of all, thanking you, and sending salute to you and the folks who are organizing in Cincinnati, and speaking this truth, and also again that these things don't happen by accident. There is a territory. We totally understand. We went through the same thing when we were building here, homefulness. The way the inspectors, and there's a reason why my sister Tiny calls the permit gangsters, and all of these inspectors who do come with a police, policing people, and especially, for ourselves, our whole organization is called Poor Magazine, and so they came and somehow thought that we were going to be violating the code, doing illegal stuff. Again, trying to find stuff to criminalize us for trying to create housing, for trying to keep our people housed.
Mm,
So thank you for calling that too, and just the matter of fact too, the how important media, radio, the beautiful documentary that speaks on what's happening in Cincinnati is important. Thank you for sharing this, for speaking up. And yes, yes, we know just like ourselves when we went and sat and set tents outside the building department because they were being foul, because they were preying on our communities. And so also holding these inspectors and this crooked, I don't want to say the word, but this crooked politician and people in these places that they're supposed to be fighting for the interests of the people, yet they come in and policing and literally prey on our community. They need to be held accountable. And you know what? At least over here in Oakland, we know some of where some of these folks live. So guess what? We let it be known when we disagree with them.
oh, I exactly. I mean, there's such a lot of parallels, family, in terms of what we're dealing with out here. So we completely hear you and understand. And I just want to lift you up. I love the fact that you're suing the city, and I love the pro se.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. You're absolutely right. And I wanted to just wonder, or maybe you could let us know, how are they responding back to you? Have they been doing retaliation? Are they being quiet? What's going on?
They are not responding to us in a way that they are showing any sort of concern for the things that we've raised, for the people who have been made homeless, for the people who have been overtaxed. They are showing no compassion or compassionate justice when it comes to dealing with our group. As a matter of fact, the city of Cincinnati has basically said, well, we weren't here when all of this was established, right? The mayor has said this, the city manager has said this, members of council have said this, county commissioners have said this. Like, look, like we didn't do this. Okay, you may not have been in your seat in public office when all of this was initiated. We'll give you that. But once you are made aware that there is a problem, once you are made aware that the people that voted for you are suffering and going through anguish, people have been forced to basically turn over their properties. We are looking at serious criminal, civil, key tam, RICO violations across this city. And we are not going to stop until
Okay,
we obtain some victory. Like
that's
we
right.
Mm,
are owed something.
Yes.
Our
Period.
goal, some restoration. We go by reclaim, repair, restore, rebuild. That's what we're looking at, and there's no other option that we're looking at settling $4,000 and we all right off into the sunset for 20 minutes. No, we
No.
want to see some policy change. We want to see some atonement made to the people that have been hurt, and we want to be made whole again.
Okay.
I want my house back. My
Yes.
Okay.
is still sitting vacant and it's been 10 years. And I
Wow.
do believe that the reason why it's still vacant is because whoever rolls up on it, they get told by the people that still know, Tahira, that hey, this house is not don't have a clean title. Go ahead and fix
Okay.
it up. So when I get it back, it'll be renovated because we're not
Okay.
going to stop.
That part. Exactly. I love that. I also wanted to lift up the fact that you declared, that the man's poison, aka the brewery and all that other BS that town may be known for, whatever, are the ones who are the wealth hoarders there and the developers and the forces that are trying to silence you.
Mhm.
And just lifting you up for coming against that, because we know that there's a whole trajectory of also selling our communities that poison so they can silence us, right? So that these are all connected.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if you could say, we're running out of time, but I want to make sure you just speak a little bit on that, on that specific, in terms of, are they the folks that are the stakeholders? They're behind the big money.
Yes, yes. There's a book by Dan Labat's called "Who Runs Cincinnati,"
Mm,
and it tells much about the deeply seated, I guess, takeover that has been going on kind of undercover until people start to remove the veil. As far as the association with the brewery districts, and that's what they're calling them. And it's not Mohawk anymore. It's the brewery district. Well, I mean, anyone who has had family members who have suffered with any sort of addiction or struggled with, alcoholism, we know that that usually starts with alcohol, with the very thing that they're
Yes.
using to promote and say, well, unless you accept our platform of, wanting to put, six or seven breweries within a 10 block area, you're not, a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And so we haven't accepted that. But I mean, just look at the stats. And most people who end up addicted start from drinking alcohol.
hmm You already know. You want to say one thing too?
We'll just again today too. We just came back from Los Angeles in California with this 70-year-old elder from reclaiming her home was literally being served by the sheriffs and was being threatened to eviction. But one of the things that he's calling too that I feel again as houses folks, many of our folks are literally living rent by barely having enough to pay the rent every end of the month or every first of the month. And Benito's calling for a general rent strike in the U.S. Right, because we know also that some of these landlords are preying on our folks. Some of these folks who are trying to flip buildings come in all colors and shapes, and sometimes they look like us. But guess what? They're flipping them and raising the rents, raising the prices of what. At the end of the day, also displacing our folks. So just again, that this is a national crisis that's happening, and again, that I feel yes is the need. How do we stop this monster that's called America and the ongoing homelessness that it's creating here in our communities in our cities, right?
Yeah, Shay.
And so,
Mhm.
yes, bringing the voice of Benito, it's time that also folk, and again, some folks feel secure, but we know that you end up losing your job, you end up getting injured, and you want ran away from being homeless.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
as what happened to Kahira, right? They have their home taken by BS, predatory lenders, BS predatory permit gangsters. Well, out here, they give you a blight notice, which of course, if you don't immediately remediate the blight notice, it rises in the amount of money that you supposedly owe the city for this fake blight,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then, right, is
Mhm.
that somehow now you can't even pay it, and
Mm-hmm.
then and then it ends up on your tax lien, and then they can
Oh
seize your
my God.
property.
Oh, the red tag your
Yep.
Yeah.
building.
Yep. So we totally feel you, family. I just want to make sure that listeners and viewers can support and lift up, and we do have listeners all over the world. So how can folks support you? Are you doing a fundraising campaign? What are you doing right now? I know you're also on self determination, which we know is really what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I would like to quickly ask from you all is that any cases that you all come up with, we'll share our cases with you.
Mm,
If you could share your case information with us, that
yes,
would be great. It makes us stronger. It gives us evidence that this is going on. I'd
yes.
also like to see that blight list, and I'm going to send you a copy of our cookie cutter list, and we'll see how similar they are.
Mm,
Tells me they're probably using the same tactics that we're
Right,
doing here.
right.
So yeah, if people want to reach out to us, you can give me a call directly at area code 513-913-2691, 513-913-2691. Our email is peoplesplatform2020 at gmail.com. You also can make a contribution through Cash App at People's Justice 2020, $ People's Justice 2020. And anything helps, guys, because we're doing this out of our own pockets,
Mm.
um,
that's
uh,
right.
sustain ourselves out of our own pockets, and we fight out of our own pockets.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
any
that part.
support, exposure, other interviews, please let us know, and we will do the same because we're stronger together.
Oh,
Yes.
are you on IG or Face Crack or any of that?
Yes. Yeah, the People's Platform is on Facebook, and I have a personal page, a creator page on Instagram as Queen Tahira. I'm also involved in the freedom movement with the National Freedom and Justice Movement. So
That's
we have a comprehensive approach to solving our own problems with
Mm.
solutions.
that
Right
part. And
on.
I'd love you to learn more about homefulness because
Yes.
that's what it is. It's the people we come up with our own problem. We don't, I mean, our own problems, our own solutions. How
Yes.
about that?
Yes.
We
That's
don't
right.
need.
That's
We
right.
appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much, Tahira. This has been amazing. Yes, we're going to work together. Listeners and viewers, also, we have a beautiful active population of folks who watch us. So you heard the call, relatives. Support this family members out in, this occupied Lenape and Shawnee territory and Mohawk and all of the warriors out there, aka Cincinnati. Let's get our relatives lifted up for the real work. People's platform on FaceCrack, and already got the phone number, and we will definitely be in touch. We appreciate you so much,
Thank you.
sis.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
y'all too. Let's stay in
Okay.
touch.
All right.
United
Talk to
we
you soon.
stand.
All
All right,
right. Power
guys.
the people. Okay,
Power
dear.
to the people.
All right. Again, you're listening to Poor People's Radio. You're watching PNN on CNN. That's Poor People's Revolutionary Radio. Next up, as you heard Mute speak about it, we had the blessing of being in Tavangar because we're helping relatives down
Oh,
there start their own homefulness, houseless relatives. Because, yeah, guess what, politicians? We poor people have our own solutions. Just like you heard Tahira, right? We don't need these non-profiteers and politicians continue to save us with their not solutions. I just want to lift up that the cabins in Uchun was a solution, and folks are getting an eviction notice as we speak and running around trying to figure out because they have nowhere to go. And that's Wood Street. When Wood Street Commons had a solution, the shitty gangsters destroyed it and did mass evictions and put them in a solution that was never meant to last. So, what else is new? Anyway, so we're working with our relatives in Tavangar to build a homefulness, and it's a powerful movement, along with all the other parts of Mama Earth that are working with us on that. And we are working closely with a powerful group called Reclaiming Our Homes, which are actually indigenous mamas, brown mamas, and papas, and uncles, and aunties who were gentrified out of their own longtime Raza Chicano neighborhood in so called LA, called El Sereno. And meanwhile, Caltrans had decided to, under eminent domain, another settler colonial lie of removal and destruction, had decided to essentially take an entire swath of hundreds of houses away from people who were living there and gave them some pissant little amount of money to leave. Anyway, these houses were sitting there for years. They never did anything with it. I guess they decided not to do the freeway or something like that. And meanwhile, hundreds of people in El Sereno are houseless. So guess what? They came up with their own solution. Inspired by Moms for Housing, we love Moms for Housing. They took back these homes in El Sereno. They moved into them in COVID, right? When we were told to shelter in place. So they sheltered, they found shelter. 5 years later, the city of LA, HACLA, the Housing Authority of LA, and Caltrans are evicting every single one of the families who did nothing but create a home. So what is their crime? What is the sheriff being called out for? So T-Bull on the ones and twos, he's going to hook up this video. We're going to watch Roberto from Eastside Cafe LA talk about what Benito, the last warrior, holding out, a houseless elder who will not go quietly.
We're expecting the sheriff's department to come in and try to evict Benito Flores, the last reclaimer to be evicted. And we're right now it's 6:30. Perhaps in an hour or so, we'll find out. But because the sheriff's schedules are so fluid and imprecise, we don't know for sure that they're coming. But we have a lot of indicators that they are. We haven't spotted them, but we're thinking that within the hour we'll find out more.
For listeners
And
and viewers who don't know the
Benito,
history of
yeah,
this,
Benito Flores is the last reclaimer. The reclaimers were a group of families that in 2020, out of desperation, took empty houses, empty state houses that had been empty for some of them as long as 20 years, and refurbished them. And in taking the houses, we sent a letter to the governor's wife, letting her know what we were doing and actually telling her that we were the only ones that were really carrying out the directives, her husband's directives, which were two. One, shelter in place. The other is to utilize all government property for housing. And we were doing that. We were sheltering in place. We were saving lives. That was the start of COVID. And we thought that the crime that Caltrans is committing is much greater and than the simple breaking in and taking over some of these houses for good use. Uh, and so this happened in 2020. The governor, because of that letter, and he knew exactly what we were doing, gave a dispensation, told Caltrans to leave the reclaimers inside. 16 families were allowed to stay, and it's been 5 years. We've been trying to fight eviction notices because what they did immediately they put all the reclaimers under a HACLA program, a temporary transitional program.
and that's Housing Authority of LA.
Yes, HACLA is Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, and they took the opportunity to kind of control the control mechanisms for the reclaimers was HACLA, and they had a 2-year program for transitional housing. We didn't really agree with the 2-year program. We didn't agree. We didn't reclaim just to give them back in 2 years. This belongs to the people,
Thank you.
Oh,
and so we reclaim to stay.
Oh my
And
God.
and so what we are doing now is Benito is taking this opportunity to tell the world uh, why homelessness exists,
Mm.
and naming names of those to blame,
Mhm.
He's also doing something extremely important, and that calling on all advocates, housing advocates, for a general strike, a rent strike in 2026. As you can see the sign right there, it's a citywide rent strike
Oh wow.
for 2026. This is
Right.
extremely important. We need to take the whole struggle to another level,
Oh,
and Benito is
it's doing it.
making that call.
That's what's
Yes.
up.
Okay.
That's what's up. Thank you.
So again, you just heard Roberto from Eastside Cafe LA talking about the warriors who are not going to give up. What did you want to say anything about any of the reclaimers, just the movement?
Well, we again, like Tanya was saying, we had the blessing to meet some of these warriors who are fighting the good fight. I mean, Roberto said a lot of it, what they're dealing with. Again, shame on Caltrans,
Yeah.
shame on Hakla,
Yeah.
and folks who are going to make these 70-year-old elder,
Yeah.
houseless.
Yeah, again.
And
Because he already was.
Right.
I think what people need to also take away from this is very important in terms of self-determination. And even just going back to what, Tahira is saying about the People's Platform. We already know what the settler colonial government has for us. Nothing, right? They have prisons that they're building. They have court systems where they're fining. They have endless amounts of, jail cells that they're creating essentially every day to take both of our relatives from the other side of these false borders and houseless people into. So we don't need to wait for them and their BS solutions. But I also want to say that one of the most important parts about the settler colonial system is the lie of private property and public property, aka publicly owned property, which we know isn't for the real public. And the reason I'm saying that right now is because in the case of Moms for Housing and in the case of reclaiming our homes, both of these warriors, mostly led by poor and houseless mamas and uncles and aunties and grandpas, made a move on so-called public and private property that was abandoned and that nobody was living in.
Right.
In other words, roofs that were being essentially wasted, left to rot. And this settler colonial system has moved on every single one of them. Whether it was a flash bomb grenade and the SWAT team on our poor sisters at Moms for Housing, or it was this move with the sheriff at 6 a.m. on a 70-year-old elder. What the system has for us is incarceration and criminalization. And so I don't want to ever stop or discourage anybody from moving in, from taking back. Keep doing that. We need to fight every day. Just like we're doing with the cabins in Ochun and all of these settler lives that we fight, and shout out to RAP and Woodsteep Commons and Coalition on Homelessness, who I know today hit up the Paula Tricksters to insist that they have housing for houseless families in Yalamu.
Not temporarily.
That's right. That's right. Not BS, temporary, that doesn't do anything. But while we fight, we need to also build. And that's where I'm bringing in homefulness right now. I want to ask Tibu to bring up the flyer for the benefit on Thursday. I do want to encourage listeners and viewers to come out on the Thursday one right now. Listeners, viewers, to come out to El Rio in occupied Lamu, aka San Francisco. There's going to be a benefit specifically for homefulness, Yalamu. It starts at 8 o'clock, and we encourage folks to kick down. If you can't come to the benefit, that's okay. You can support us on, digital streets, Venmo, Poor Magazine, I think PayPal, poormag@gmail.com. And also just come by and check us out if you want to, or go to poormagazine.org/homefulness. This is not where us houseless people are now home fully housed or live. This is a template for unselling and decommodifying and degentrifying Mama Earth, because we cannot continue to live in a system that evicts every poor person it gets. And when we're outside and we've lost everything because they've taken everything from us, they have a giant Caltrans truck to run over us. And by Baba to JT, James Edward Oakley, Cornelius Taylor, Shannon Marie Bigley, Desiree Quintero, and more names that I can even fit in my mouth. So let's build and let's fight. And the last little
And
thing we're gonna
that
go
also
ahead.
to call, also to invite to that.
Oh,
This is not just for poverty scholars, for houseless folks.
that's right.
Again, if you have a home, if you have a job and you're doing okay and you're renting and you're living in a good way, you can also just come and stand with us. And
Okay.
be like, you know what? I stand with these folks, with these poverty scholars in building their own self-determined movement.
Yeah.
Show up, folks.
That part. We're going to, on that tip, we're going to leave you with a short video that we created. It's about to go live. That actually youth scholar Tibu, videographer in-house, created,
Tiburcio, illustrator,
out of a, before
artist.
you started, yeah, before that also Hopefulness built Tibu, and of course I had a little to do with that.
I had
But,
nothing to do with that.
He was built and he built it.
That's right. But this is a video where it lifts up the words of us poor mamas who we say built our homes with poems. It's the poetry created in our Poor and Houseless Mamas workshops in Yalamu. Because we do. Us poor people don't got two coins to put together, but we have our her stories. We have our his stories. We have our poesia and our prayer.
Yes, yes.
All right. And then in addition, housed folks who happen to have access to resources have their her stories and their his stories and their prayer. And again, as Moot said, we are joined together in this movement because we can't do it without all of us together. And so learn a little bit from both poverty scholars and the privileged relatives in this short video. Go ahead, Tiva. Praise them. Corners and doorways, trying to live into another day. But to you, we just a torn paper cup that gets thrown away and away and away, sweeping us to death day after day. We houseless on the sides of these roads. Our wombs are shattered. Do our babies' lives matter? Mama, where are we supposed to go? Keep that up, baby. Mama, when we gon' find a home?
I'm a gangster homemaker. I'm an educated ghetto girl. I'm a radical teacher. I'm the S to the U to the P to the E to the R. Baby, mama, welfare queen, Junebug.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany. I have two beautiful daughters. I'm Native American from New Mexico. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I battle addiction every day, and I am struggling to be homeschooled.
This is for all the people that don't know why we come to this town. We come to support indigenous Black and Brown, take back their own town.
I come from generational wealth built from real estate development here in the Bay Area. My great-grandfather started a real estate business in the 30s in San Francisco. My grandpa built on it. My dad's generation currently runs it. And I see how my family's story is directly connected to the housing crisis that we see today.
Poor Magazine is a movement. Yeah, we got that 501c3 paper because that makes it a little bit easier for folks to radically redistribute in this broken settler colonial system. But we're not like that. We're a movement, a poor and houseless, indigenous, black and brown, and disabled people led movement that is literally working every day to fight the violence of sweeping humans like we're trash and to build solutions that are always going to last. All right, so one more time from the top. Oh, yeah, you heard it, relatives. Come through if you can this Thursday. I think doors open actually at 7 p.m. at El Rio. And the party begins right about 8. And you'll get to hear some of the poets. That beautiful song, we'll probably do it again. And yeah, just come out and learn more, if nothing else. But please be a part of it. Locally, also on Sunday, if you could bring the last flyer up. I wanted to just give a shout out for this. If people don't know about it, we know that this violent system is coming for every one of us every day, especially now under the, you know, orange cracker king that thinks that they rule the world and some other ideation of who knows what. But it's a violent system for everyone right now, and no one is safe. And we actually need to get more connected, and we need to walk further and harder, and we need to lift up solutions, and we need to demand right to return. So this Sunday, starting actually in what I affectionately call Clan Amita, or AKA Alameda, there's going to be a right to return pilgrimage, and it's going to cross town. At 9, we'll be over at Fruitvale Bart offering prayer with our feet, aka danza. We invite you to join us, and then we'll be going to San Antonio Park and offering some words, along with Wood Street Commons, about the violent sweeps of houseless relatives. And again, as houseless people, our right to return, right? And moving on throughout the day, we'll be going through People's Park, as we know was a destroyed, beautiful community park, taken, stolen by AKKdemia for what? To create an armed camp. We'll be going by so-called Ohlone Park, which is being fetishized and criminalized by the settler neighbors, because we know it's not just the politricksters who hate on us houseless peoples. And we'll be speaking to the relatives out there so they can have their voices heard and have the right to return to that park. How about that? And then we'll be going by Sather Gate and hearing from relatives about Palestine and the right to return of Palestinian peoples to that stolen land, right? And then all of it will culminate at the West Berkeley Shell Mound, aka LaShawn Land. Shout out to Segurite Land Trust, all the warriors who keep on demanding land back.
Land back!
No matter what. So join us, walk with us, get involved, check it out. If you have more questions about it and you can't check it out from that flyer, you can also find it on Instascam and Facecrack. Follow Poor Magazine, or hit us up, DM us if you need more information.
Yeah, and again, family, community, we're here in times where we gotta get active. You know, when we're under attack, you know, well, what do, Tibo?
Sit down and
No,
give up.
we get up and fight back. Thank you,
Stand up,
community.
fight back.
So that's all for these broadcasts of Poor People's Radio. You can follow us on Facebook, X, or Instagram at Poor Magazine, at Poverty Scholar, and Poor News Network on YouTube. You can also get this complete Poor People's Radio podcast with all the interviews and conversations of any of our previous archive shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, or whatever you get your podcast from. All power to the people.
Power!
Power!